People like ask me a lot of times, how did we get all these guys to come in, the Fred Davises and the Larry Greens and that ilk of athletes, the really quality athletes, and that were African Americans, minority group. And how did this all transpire? And it's a long, involved story. Al decided, and Bob Erickson, that leads me to another whole thing. That the other thing that contributed to Doane, that Al contributed to Doane, was he brought Bob Erickson on our campus. And Erickson was a high school basketball coach at Kearney High for a number of years. And we had a opening here as the head basketball coach, and Papik talked Erickson into coming and being our basketball coach. And our basketball program at that point was at probably about as low a level as you're going to find. Was not at a very high level. We weren't doing very well. And but Erickson came in, and that was a major impact, I think, athletically on Doane. And he was a great recruiter also. Well, anyway, and the two of them decide that we've got to go out of state to be competitive. That we can't compete with the low cost of the state schools, Kearney particularly. Was outstripping everybody at that point. In the 1960s, they were just killing everybody. And the basic difference was, of course, cost. And so a lot of Nebraska kids were drawn to Kearney. At any rate, to be competitive, we felt like we had to go out of state to find some people. And so they decided that they were going to mass mail. They got a hold of the Chicago Tribune newspaper, and they got the all state picks in basketball and football. And first team through whatever number of teams. And in Illinois, they have a classless system. It's a one-class system. Everybody's in the same class in high school, and so there's quite a number of people here, and they wrote to every kid. Didn't make any difference whether he was a lineman or a point guard or whatever. They wrote to him and said, "We see that you've done this, and we're interested in seeing if you would like to come out here and be part of our program," and so on. So this was a mass mailing. I don't even remember how many kids, 300 or maybe more. Well, anyway, one of those kids was a football player named Paul Broussard from Rantoul, Illinois, and never did hear anything back from him. We heard back from a few kids, and particularly from the Chicago metro area. And Broussard, a year later, Broussard sends a letter up. He said, "Hey," he said, "you guys tried to recruit me a year ago. I've moved down to Port Arthur, Texas, and are you still interested in me?" And so they back and forth. And sure enough, the kid shows up. And he's the real deal. And this kid is a 48 flat quarter miler in an era when 48 flat was pretty decent. And he was a good football player and running back, I think. And he's here a year, and they take care of him pretty well. He goes back home and tells his guidance counselor, "Hey," said, "these people are pretty nice up there, and it's a pretty good little school." And so Al goes on a recruiting trip, and he goes out back east Chicago and Pennsylvania or wherever, Washington, D.C. Winds up down in Port Arthur, Texas, and he gets hooked up with a senior boys counselor, a guy named Clayton Clark, and they hit it off perfectly. I mean, you're talking about two guys that talk in the same language right out of the box. And Clayton was looking at that point in time, was looking for some opportunities for African American students to go to attend multiracial colleges, predominantly white colleges in the North. The opportunity for African American athletes at that point in time to compete at the collegiate level was limited pretty much to the all-black schools in the South. I don't think there was a single D1 school that had a single black kid on their teams. So the student has a choice of not going to college or going to Grambling or Texas Southern or Jackson State or Prairie View or Elkhorn A&M, predominantly black. In fact, they were all black schools, or not going to school at all. And so this gave them another opportunity to move into the secondary education to the next level. And Clayton was really good about he didn't want to send anybody up here who would fail. So he was very, very conscious of sending winners. And man, we lived off of that for a long time. And we get a little success and the thing grows like topseed. Then we got Chicago connection, and particularly at Marshall High School, and then later on in outstate Nebraska, outstate Illinois, Dixon and Sterling and Rock Falls and the Davenport area, Moline, and just the thing fed on itself after a little bit. We had kids coming in that were just fantastic athletes. The guy we just had here a month or two ago at the Zone Hall of Fame, Jim Welty, as good an athlete as you'll ever want to see. The guy was fantastic. And he was just kind of a run-of-the-mill recruit, and really, when he came here. And then we got, of course, the really good guys like Davis and Fred Davis, a two-time national champion, and beat the Olympic champion in the shot that year. The Burl Williams, and we picked up a couple of basketball players from Evanston, Illinois, I think. Then, Larry Green and, the other Broussard, Alvin, and the Mike Sallier and Boo Baker, and, the thing just, once it got going, it was almost simple. It was people were so into this kind of a situation that, and it opened a whole new era in Doane College, and going through the turmoil of the civil rights era um, was a learning experience, and everybody learned from it, and Doane became a better school because of that influx of African Americans in our program, and athletics led the way. It wasn't that we were the only source of expanding our racial makeup of our student body, but the athletics led the way, and that was almost 100% Al Papik and Bob Erickson, and to be part of that and to try and learn from that was really an eye opener for me as a young coach, still trying to figure out what was going on. It was an era that I don't think will ever be repeated in college education and college athletics, in the development of collegiate experience for our student body, and getting a new and different look at. We had predominantly, and it didn't come easily. We had our problems as far as interracial, area, geographic area relationships within our student body. It wasn't all, well, people would like to believe that it was all, right now and everybody accepted everybody at face value. Didn't work that way. And there were, it took a learning experience for predominantly white local Nebraska kids to accept out-of-state minority kids and on an equal footing. And that took some doing, and it wasn't just as all sweetness and light. There were problems, but we worked through them, and everybody learned from them, and I think that was a major factor in creating a kind of campus and a kind of place that Doane College is, really. 'Cause we were kind of a one-way kind of school at one time, and this broadened it, and it was all, not all, primarily, in my opinion, because of Papik and Erickson and the way they approached their recruiting. It was a great time to be here. It certainly wasn't boring, and you worked, pretty hard at it. But it was a great time to learn about yourself and about other people and how you approach them and how they approached you and how they affected each other. Yeah.